Hello, this is Jurek from Spoko Polish. Welcome back to our channel. Today we're gonna tell you how to learn Polish cases. So a little bit more for those who might be feeling a bit lost in the process. In the previous videos, we've explained a bit about how to learn genitive, how to learn the dative case, but this is going to be just a more comprehensive guide on how to approach it in general. I'm going to use the example of genitive that you might have already learned just to show you what cases are for and what's the best approach to learning them. And I'm going to give you some materials. So check out the link below and watch till the end. What is a grammatical case? So a case shows us the relationship between words in a sentence. And every Polish case has its main function. And a noun has one ending, and then all the words referring to it have another one. For example, mojego małego kota, my little cats. So the words mojego and małego have this ending for words that refer to a masculine genitive noun, and that allows Polish to have a very free word order. Thanks to this, we can play a lot with words in Polish, and we can change the order, which you can encounter very often when somebody wants to underline something, or maybe in songs or poems. And then most cases also have their secondary usages. For example, here the main usage can be possession. So we're expressing that something belongs to my little cat. But the secondary usage might be, for example, after the word without. So in Polish, without my little cat, we would say bez mojego małego kota. And yeah, so the first big tip we have for you is learn your cases separately. There are 7 grammatical cases in Polish. And when you're learning a new word in its basic form, you're already learning a case. It's a nominative case called mianownik in Polish. And out of these 7 cases, the most important ones are this nominative that you're already learning, and then accusative for biernik that shows the object of the sentence. So nominative usually stands for the subject, which you will find out more about if you follow the link in the description. And then biernik shows the object of the sentence. Genitive or dopełniacz expresses possession, and instrumental or narzędnik, its main use is to describe a tool, so something that you use to do something. And these are the cases I would focus on if I would be learning Polish on my own. Okay, so let's stick to the example of genitive so you can see how we propose it to do it. So remember, the case is always reflected in the ending of the word. And here, let's imagine we have a cat, and the cat has their water. And to express that the water belongs to the cat, in English, you'd say the cat's water. In Polish, woda kota. So the a in the end of the word kot has the same function as the s in English cats, right? So if you're learning other cases, or when you're learning other cases, try to remember that actually English also has something similar, just less of it. But here, the S shows us something about how the word cat refers to other words in what we're trying to say. And remember, always use simple examples. So try to find an example as simple as possible, and then use it as a point of reference when you speak or write. Okay, so like unfortunately, a lot of books um, start with complex examples, or give you a table with a lot of different usages and things. Don't start with that. Start with an example as simple as possible. Again, I recommend the guide from the link below, so you can maybe find examples there, or create your own example that an expression that you need to use in some specific situation, and that will be much easier to remember. And when you remember it well, then you can um, create similar examples as you go. And another tip we have is repeat but also analyze, right? So in many languages you might just like repeat and memorize a way to express something, and then apply it to other things. But Polish has so many different endings that just trying to understand, like remember things you hear or things you need to say can be confusing, right? Because sometimes words already end with "a," for instance. So then if you remember that, if, for example, there's a word kota, which means cats, and kotka, which means a she cat. So just trying to remember that without understanding why it's like this may be a little bit harder than in case of many other languages. So you remember it even better if you understand the logic behind it well. So try to connect these two things. Trying to write or speak, up to you, whatever is easier for you. For some, it might be a chat with people, and for others, it might be typing with someone on a messenger. And connect it with knowing why you're using this particular form of a word or why somebody used it. So, what's the most important when it comes to cases is the last letter, right? And actually, last letters of a word, because they express a case, and they also might dictate us what ending a word might need. So, if we have a word in nominative case, uh, generally we add an a at the end to express position, right? But what if the word already ends with a? For example, Carolina, and then we need to put a y there. So pay attention that I haven't showed you any table. I haven't told you anything about genders. We can really simplify this logic of cases to that extent. But remember that every case has a little bit different nature. And with some of them, it will really depend more on the gender, or maybe sometimes even if the thing we're talking about is alive or not. And then in other cases, it might even not really depend on the gender, but just on a group of consonants that the last consonant belongs to. But generally, what ending we add depends on the word that the ending that the word ends in the nominative case. And remember that Polish also have rules which are universal, and they depend on they are based on pronunciation. Just because some things are easier to pronounce, we apply a bit different endings. And any ending starting with a Y or I is a perfect example of it. So after some sounds, for example, sound G, we use E instead of I in Polish, just because for Polish native speakers, it's easier to say gi than to say g. So, for example, for the word kolega, we'd have kot kolegi, my friend's cat, and not kot kolegi. And rules like this apply to endings of all words, not only in noun cases. So it's good to try to spot these in Polish and see which. Then you don't need to learn all the endings of each case separately, because you already know that if the ending would start with an I, and that could also apply to a verb, then we'll change it to E after G and some other letters. Before we continue, let me tell you a little bit more about Spoko Polish. We're basically a team of polyglots who have been working already for 7 years on making the way of teaching Polish more approachable for people and more effective, especially for people who have not learned a Slavic language or a case-based language before. So all the tricks you learn here, we have applied into programs that use real, practical, contemporary language to introduce all these concepts step by step without overloading you and enable you to practice Polish from the beginning. We offer group courses on all levels from A1 to B1, as well as individual courses on all possible levels. So keep on learning on your own, but if you want to join one of our group courses, you're welcome. Or maybe you just would like to have a one-off individual consultation with a professional teacher, then you're also very welcome to join us and follow us on. We're present on most social media, so we'll be very happy to share our skills, materials, and knowledge with you. So coming back to cases, basically with this knowledge that or this analysis, like the one we've showed you on the base on genitive, you could make it a diagram, right? So you could ask yourself, what's the letter in the end of the word in nominative? Is it an A? Oh, then we add a Y. So if the word ends with A, we add I. But if I is difficult to pronounce, for example, G instead of G, then we just put E instead. If the word doesn't end with an A, but with a consonant or maybe another vowel, we also add A. So this is just a sketch of a diagram that, just for as an example, you can make your own which work for you best. Otherwise, it could be an implication like this, right? If it's the owner, like if the thing owns something, then based on the last letter, you can put A or Y or I or something like that. Or you can also make it a table. But generally, we advise you not to use these ready-made tables at the beginning. Just do it at the end and best make it your own table, because then you can see where and what you can simplify, what you can you can arrange it in a way that suits you better and use it like this. Because if you get a ready-made table which with full information and you try to put it into practice, it's very hard to remember it. And for this is an example, you can use different genders, right? Or as we showed you before, you can just pay attention to what the last letter is, and that's also great. Okay, and only now, when you get the grasp of generally how this case works, it's time to discover exceptions. So, for example, in the case of genitive, we have model telefonu, eno telefona, łyżka cukru, wjazd do garażu. So try to ignore these exceptions at the beginning. And maybe there is also another rule behind these exceptions in different cases. For example, here there isn't, but they only apply to some specific groups of nouns. So ignore them at the beginning. First, learn and practice using the words that don't have exceptions, unless you really need some specific word that you use a lot. For example, maybe you know that the plural of człowiek is ludzie and not człowieki. So when you're learning to use a plural of nominative case and you speak about people a lot, you want to say things about people, learn this one specific exception and then only later look at why it might be an exception or things like that. And a mistake that Polish people often make when trying to explain or teach cases to others is starting with questions like, for example, dopełniacz, genitive, goes with kogo, czego. Basically, these are cases of the words kto and co, which allow us, native speakers of the language, to we use it as helpers, help words, to let us understand what case we've just used, because we don't think about, oh, which case am I going to use now. So we go from the other end. You're starting to learn from here, and we're going from here. So ignore that for the beginning, and try to learn it a little bit later. So do question words like kogo and czego later, and not at the beginning of learning a case. And last but not least, don't try to learn too much at once. First, look at why you need a case. Learn the noun endings. Then, when you know them quite well, learn the words, the endings of the words referring to the noun, like we had mojego, małego, kota, for example. And then practice it. When you get a new bit of information, instead of going next, you just practice first until it becomes natural for you, and only then go to something else. And if you want to learn, for example, all the cases, it's best to practice your genitive while learning past tense, so something not referring to cases, and only then going to learn another case when genitive is easy for you, or at least singular, for example, right? And after when you know your, for example, singular genitive well, you've practiced it, you have no problems with it, you understand it well, then you can go to another case, for example, but then go back to genitive and, for example, learn your plurals or secondary usages or something else. So this is called the spiral method. You start with a little bit, you practice, and then you come back to it. Knowing this well, you learn a bit more and continue like this. So thanks very much for watching. Good luck with learning Polish. I'm sure you're going to succeed. Just take it step by step, follow the tips that we used, and check out the link below for the materials we've prepared for you about the functions of all cases. And also follow our blog on the website, follow our Facebook, Instagram, subscribe here. And we don't publish videos on YouTube very often, so please click the bell button so you'll get a notification every time we have time to publish something here. And all the best for you. Powodzenia.